Good morning, everybody. As people start to show up in the room, I just want to welcome you to today's Connecting Communities and Schools webinar. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself in the chat while we wait for other people to join us, that'd be great. So your name will already pop up, but if you wouldn't mind also sharing your organization and where in the state you're located. This is always a great opportunity to see who's joining us and from where. And a lot of times we make some possible connections in our chat during these webinars, which is always fun. We'll get started in about a minute, but again, want to give everyone some time to hop in the room and join us. Again, if you're just now hopping on, thank you for being with us today. Some housekeeping. As you already know, if you're not new to our webinar series, you won't be able to come on camera, you won't be able to come off mute, but you are more than welcome to interact with us in our chat box and the Q&A. Feel free to use either to ask us questions or to ask other audience members questions. We do have a panel of three folks today, so if you have a question for any of our panelists, you can drop it in the chat box or the Q&A at any time, and we'll be sure to answer those at the end. Again, before we get started, would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat box, share your organization, and where you're joining us today. Also, as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so if you got to step away early, it's okay. You will receive the recording. Or if you have some colleagues who you think in the content being shared today, you can also share the recording with them after it goes out. And as a reminder, the recording for all of our webinars are archived at wholespire.org. Bree, we can go ahead to the next slide. Meg?
I was going to say, if I was just let the audience know that I'm working on the back end to try to open up the chat. Apparently, we've received a couple of messages that is disabled. I'm working on it.
Thank you, Meg. So Meg will be, I'm gonna introduce my co-host today, who will be mostly behind the scenes, but Meg is joining us as the executive director from Wholespire, and she's going to be our behind the scenes tech support today. So thank you, Meg, for your work on that and for getting the chat up and running for us. In the meantime, we still have the Q&A. I do see, so if you do have a question, you can still pop it in the Q&A. Also, we have behind the scenes joining us today, Brianna Milling. She's the South Carolina Fitness Graham Coordinator with the South Carolina Department of Public Health, and she'll be controlling our slides for us today. So, big thank you to Bree. And then, just to introduce myself, I am Erica Ayers. I'm the School Wellness Consultant with the South Carolina Department of Public Health. Next slide, Bree. If you are new joining us for the first time, this webinar series is brought to you through a collaboration between the Schools Network and the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness. The mission of the Schools Network is to identify and promote healthy eating and active living strategies in South Carolina public schools that empower key stakeholders and encourage collaboration among those seeking to improve student health and academic achievement. And then the mission of the Governor's Council on Physical Fitness is to serve the state by promoting the health and well-being of South Carolinians by advancing physical activity. So since the spring of 2022, the Schools Network and the Governor's Council have been working together to deliver this webinar series to y'all. The purpose in this webinar series is to enhance the collaboration between schools and communities using the whole school, whole community, whole child model as a framework to support student health. And today, our panelists are going to touch on a few key components of that WISC model, including physical activity, community involvement, and our physical outdoor environment. But before I introduce our panelists to you, we are going to first open up our first poll for the day, our only poll for the day. And so we want to give our audience members a better idea of who y'all are so they know who they're speaking with. Thank you, Meg. And while y'all are responding to that poll, I'm going to go ahead and briefly introduce each of our panelists. So first we have Christy Camp. She's the literacy instructor with Spartanburg Methodist College. We have Ashley Sandoval, Senior Manager, Business Development with the Walking Classroom. And we have John Shi. And honestly, my panelists, I am so sorry. Please forgive me if I have mispronounced any of your names, and please correct me when you come on camera. John is the Facility Supervisor with Parks, Recreation, and Tourism with the City of Rock Hill. So, Meg, if we can close that poll and see who's with us today. All right, we have a pretty good mix of folks. It looks like a third of us are health educators and a little over a third of us are public health professionals. So we have a good mix of folks in the room, including some other school district, school staff, and some community nonprofit or state level organizations. So thank you everyone who is joining us again today. And again, please continue to introduce yourselves in the chat. We really appreciate it. So, Christy, welcome to our panel. Let me pull up your bio real quick. So, Christy Camp is a national board certified teacher who taught secondary English language arts at Gaffney High School for 26 years. She earned her PhD in language and literacy from the University of South Carolina, and her research centers on adolescent literacy in the outdoor classroom. She has taken students outside for more than 2 decades, and she has published her findings about outdoor literacy events in academic journals such as English Journal and Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literacy. She currently teaches English part time at Spartanburg Methodist College as she continues to write and research while spending as much time outside as she can. Christy, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm going to hand this over to you.
Hello, everybody. I am honored to be here. I am Christy Camp. And before we get started, I'd like to do a really quick experiment. If you like to close your eyes, it might help a little bit, but I'm going to take you to 3 scenarios. And I want you to consider what each scenario makes you feel. First of all, have you ever been to a really big sporting event, like a college football game or like a concert where there are thousands of people? How does that make you feel? Think for just a second about that. All right, now I'm going to switch gears. What about a very solemn occasion, like a church service, a funeral, communion service, or like a memorial service for veterans? How do you feel there? All right, the third scenario, I want you to go back to your fourth grade classroom and think about what you see and feel if you were to go back to your fourth grade classroom. Okay, if you have your eyes closed, open them up. um, I I did that because I want you to think about the different feelings that you experience by going back in time to those different scenes. For me, the sporting event is one that is a joyful event for most of my life because I know how to act. It's an enjoyable process. Unless my son's on the mound, then I get really nervous. But then the at a solemn service, I'm consciously monitoring my thoughts, trying to keep my emotions in because I'm a very emotional person. But then when I go back to fourth grade to Miss Long's class, that is full of all sorts of mixed emotion because she was terrifying in one way, but on the other hand, she really pushed our learning. So full of mixed emotions. The reason I ask you to do that is because the research shows that people's emotions and their thoughts are influenced by the physical environment in which they sit. And the artifacts of an area tell us how to behave in that area. And our past experiences in similar places or similar situations shape how we feel in encountering those artifacts in the current situation. And if remembering those settings brought back intense feelings, then you'll be able to relate to what I'm going to talk about today. Because for some students, the traditional classroom with fluorescent lights and metal desk and standards posted all over the wall, that evokes feelings of inadequacy or anxiety. For other students like me, it ignites their competitive spirit. I'm ready to go. For students like my older son, it's a rote mode. I know exactly how much to do to get done, the minimum grade to keep my mom off my back. And there are a few people that would say that the modern classroom inspires creativity or original thought. And for many participants, it evokes notions of conformity, compliance, doing what they're told. For over 5 years now, I've done a deep dive in research on how the outdoor classroom influences the writing of teenagers in their regular ELA class. And what I found is that the writing students do outside is often more authentically generated and is a better representation of their literacy skills than the writing they produce in the traditional classroom. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. Next slide, please. As Erica said, I taught English at Gaffney High School for 26 years. I had to retire a little bit early because I had a cancer diagnosis. But as I'm recovering, I was able to continue my research. And now I teach part-time at Spartanburg Methodist as I'm still recovering. But all the photos you see from this slide out are photos from my outdoor classroom. If I'm in the photo, as I'm in this one, either a student or a partner teacher has taken that photo. Otherwise, I took those photos. But my journey as an outdoor educator began more than 20 years ago. It started with just students saying, "Oh, it's pretty outside. Can we go read outside?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I would take them to the courtyards at Gaffney High School. We have amazing courtyards. And what I found when we would go read outside is that the kids acted very differently outside than they did inside. First of all, they talked all the way down the stairs into the courtyard, but they participated in the reading. Even if they were pacing or fiddling with a stick, they were reading along and participating in the discussions. And then they told me they enjoyed being outside. And so before long, I started looking for ways to take the lessons outside. May have begun with reading, but then we would write outside, we'd do vocabulary outside, the movement activities that are good for students like inside outside circles and stations. I moved outside simply because we had more room. And then the more it was successful, I started doing things like blood pressure experiments with the school nurse and doing projects for Earth Month. And I kept having positive experiences. I saw students bonding, and I saw more original writing when we went outside than we did when we were inside. And GHS was a great place for outdoor learning because we had ample green space beside and in between buildings. We had a wooded area out to right across the road from the school. We had the courtyards, we had picnic tables, we have a practice track with bleachers. So we just had lots of great space for outdoor learning. And I had supportive administration and a flexible curriculum. It is this combination that allowed me to be successful at outdoor ed. But since I've made this the center of my research, I've worked with students in multiple grades. In summer programs, I've worked with middle level students. High school students at Gaffney High School were generally grades 10 through 12. And now I'm beginning to make the move to college students. And my action research has led me to develop a protocol for my outdoor lessons that I call RAW with 2 A's. That's what you see in that graphic there. It stands for reading, artifact action, writing. And what I've learned from my research is that beginning with a shared text, it sets the tone for the physical activity that happens outside. But the physical activity that happens outside becomes the source for student original writing later. And you can see how I've represented that protocol there in that graphic. That was in the article that was published in Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literacy. But why do we need outdoor literacy events? In order to understand that, we probably need to take a hard look at what's going on in the current ELA classroom. Next slide, please. All right, what I'm going to talk about here in this next slide is generalizations, of course, but they are trends that we're seeing more and more often in South Carolina and nationwide. And it comes from the fact that the way we measure a school's success depends on quantifiable data, which means we rely heavily on test scores and data such as attendance records and discipline records. And that data drive absolutely can be helpful. But it also means that schools will fashion instruction to meet the standardized criteria. And that often results in strict conformity to formulaic proofs of learning. And in the ELA classroom, what that means is formula writing prompts and products, writing that will maximize the scores on the standardized assessments logically. But that leaves very little room in the ELA classroom for creative, authentic creations. And the push in the secondary ELA classroom recently has been to stop teaching whole text and instead use excerpts with quick assessments that measure isolated skills on those excerpts to mimic the testing situation. But then there are serious debates about the role of screens in the classroom because we're all spending too much time on screens. And we know that students have learned to manipulate those screens to get AI to produce essays for them. And when we are requiring formulaic writing, AI can do that very easily. And I call this a vending machine mode of education. I put in a quarter, I get a gumball back. And that leaves very little room for originality and creativity. But the problem with that is creative, self-generated writing is the foundation for critical thinking and innovation. And as long as students are meeting minimal standards, they're probably not thinking for themselves. And school writing becomes performative. And if it's performative, it's irrelevant to them. It doesn't seem to be a place for creative generation. And so what we're seeing right now is that kids are spending a lot of time behind screens producing writing that looks all alike. And I offer outdoor writing lessons as a way to counter that. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's what the most recent research shows us about outdoor learning. First and most important is that the importance of the physical learning environment, the artifacts within a space, and how a student is sitting in that space, and what the student sees and feels physically, touches in that space will affect the way the student responds to a text, the way they respond to other humans, and the way they feel and think about the subject or topic being presented. That's why I did the experiment at the beginning. The artifacts teach us how to behave in a certain area. And the indoor classroom and the outdoor classroom obviously likely have very different learning environments. So that changes the way students respond and interact. We already know that outdoor literacy lessons can strengthen the literacy skills that you see here. But studies also show that walking outside improves cognitive functioning, even if the person didn't necessarily enjoy walking outside. Classes that go outside regularly also show higher levels of engagement and attendance. Outdoor lessons almost always result in cross-curricular lessons, which is especially helpful in the secondary world for disciplinary literacy. So there are countless benefits to holding class outside. Next slide. And the thing about it is, it's not just for classes either. It works for church groups and social organizations. And most of the research has been done with little kids, but there's a growing body of research that says learning outside improves learning overall. Next slide, please. So when I take teenagers outside, there are some considerations we have to think about before we do that. And let me start with practical considerations of supplies. I used my supply money at the beginning of the year to buy a classroom set of clipboards. And then when we would do a lesson, I would type up and print out step-by-step instructions for what we were doing with plenty of room to write directly on that. They put it on the clipboard. In the picture you see here, you see that little tag on the tree. I made that with paper, typed their name, printed it out, laminated it, and they wrapped it in the space that they wanted to return to with waterproof twine. And so starting with the opening text for the classroom, I used all sorts of text. Sometimes it was an excerpt from a novel, nonfiction articles, essays, poetry, picture books, but I would select the text just like I would on the inside. I would select a text that was geared toward the skill I was emphasizing that week. I would try to zoom in closely and decide on what I wanted them to learn, and pick a physical action that would help them develop that skill. Now, the purpose of the physical action in between was to bridge the text, what they learned in the text, to actually applying it in their own writing. Let me give you an example. My students almost always could pick out imagery in a text, but then they would write in these vague generalities. They weren't applying it in their writing. So in that case, I would develop an outdoor activity, then have them write about the sensory experience of doing that activity. And my research has shown that students embrace authentic creation when they have some choice in what they do. So I would allow them to use their phones outside because they could take pictures, they could do videos, they would film vlogs. Sometimes they would do they would record verbal notes on their notes app, and then they would write, they would have all that data for when they sat down to write, which is a skill that they can use in a real classroom as well. And it's true that an occasional student will want to wander off by themselves. However, what I found overwhelmingly is that students will self-group based on some type of kinship, which allows them to feel relaxed when they're doing their outdoor exploration, which improves the likelihood of immersing themselves into the lesson. Next slide, please. But overall, what I have found is this is what matters in outdoor learning for literacy specifically. And this is where I develop my raw protocol. One, students need to feel some type of autonomy and agency, the idea that they have some freedom to explore and some choice in how they respond to the prompts. The second thing I discovered is that students need room to move and sensory immersion. Those two factors seem to be what inspires the original writing. They leave the class wanting to tell the story of the adventure they were on, and the notion of adventure means you got to have room to move, and you need to have your senses involved. And the third thing is an inspiring text to get them motivated in a specific direction while they're outside. And I've always tried to do diverse text in terms of genres, topics, tones, time periods, so that each student has the opportunity to hit that sweet spot of inspiration. Next slide, please. Now you will see this picture here. I asked students to bring back something from the woods to put in the class memory jar, and one of our students brought back a snake, which freaked some people out. So I thought that would be the appropriate picture for addressing concerns that a teacher might have. Obviously, we have to keep students safe. Secondly, as teachers, we worry about what will happen if we are not in total control of the situation, if students aren't directly in our faces. We also have to consider the fears of our students. And of course, we have to consider weather. But this next slide will show us some tips for teachers who want to go outside. First, I recommend beginning planning with an administrator. I would talk to my principal about what would you like to see to make this effective and safe, and develop a protocol, some ground rules for going outside. Then I would talk to my school nurse. I would make sure I knew who had an EpiPen, who had stomach issues and needed a bathroom close by, what types of first aid I needed to be aware of. But once I had that, then I need to find out more about my students. What are their anticipations about going outside? Have they gone outside with another teacher? Do they have some fears? Then I go to the lesson itself, planning the lesson. But I also recommend to teachers is that you treat an outdoor lesson like a field trip. And it was in my syllabus at the beginning of every semester what my protocol and expectations were for going outside. And I had parents sign it. There is absolutely nothing wrong with setting up like a field trip form and have parent signatures for that. And I always recommend starting small, like with a simple observation walk where the teacher can be with the students the entire time. That way, the teacher can model how to interact with the environment and how to respond to the text. And you can keep an eye on them and you can tell them, I always did. As you prove yourselves trustworthy, I will grant you a little more freedom on the next physical task. Next slide, please. And there is absolutely no doubt that I was able to do this, to build such a robust outdoor learning protocol because of supportive administrators. My last two principals that I worked for actually addressed outdoor learning in faculty meetings and gave us the parameters for that. But administrators can really support outdoor learning by making sure teachers have places to take students outside. I've already told you about Summit Gaffney High School. And I always felt supported by them. So if you have a teacher who's open to this idea, go with them, see what they're doing. That way, students will take it seriously, first of all, to begin with. Secondly, you can attest to other people that this is outdoor learning and not just students goofing off. And once you develop a partnership and some teachers that are experienced in it, they can start partnering with other teachers. The last slide, please. Here is my information. There's so much I haven't touched on. I would love to talk to you. This is my email address, my Google site, Linktree for social media. Following this on the slide that you'll see my publications and then some other resources. I really appreciate you letting me come today.
Thank you, Christy. And you're getting some love in the chat and through the reactions. You know, I heard a statistic not too long ago that on average, students spend about 7 hours on a screen and 7 minutes outside in a given day. And I really do believe that. And I think the work you're doing is so amazing because it's we've become too comfortable with being indoors, right? And you're giving them this exposure of being outside and how outside is not only fun, but it is this great learning opportunity, especially when it comes to our creative minds. And I'm very curious about these students, like when they move on from you, are they advocating to their future teachers to take them outside? Or when they go home, are they spending more time outside? Are they encouraging their families to go outside more? Um, do you know just off the top of your head if that's happening? I know I said we're going to save questions to the end, but I'm just very curious.
Anecdotally, I have heard other teachers say that was a former student has asked to go outside when they've gone, but that would be an excellent longitudinal study.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Christy, so much. And Christy's going to hang around. So if you have any questions for Christy, please put them in the chat or the Q&A and she'll respond to them. And I did put Christy's contact information in the chat so that you will already have that as well. So next we have Ashley. Welcome, Ashley, to our panel. So Ashley is the Senior Manager of Business Development at the Walk-in Classroom. She has been at the intersection of education, child health, and nonprofit for the last 4 years. She holds a master's degree in kinesiology, and her passion has always centered around helping kids lead active, healthy lives, and that's exactly what drew her to the Walk-in Classroom. So, Ashley, welcome. I'm going to hand this over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I will be talking about the walk-in classroom, what it is, and how it can support your district's or school needs or your programs. The walk-in classroom is a great program to encourage kids in schools to use their outdoor space, just as we learned, to support just learning in their daily practice. So my name is Ashley Sandoval, and I'm the senior manager at Alliance for Healthier Generation. And I'm a semi-neighbor. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, so right close to you guys in South Carolina. So today I really want to focus on three things. The first one is to explain what exactly is the walk-in classroom and how it works. Second, I'll share how the walk-in classroom supports broader school goals from health and wellness, like increasing physical activity and improving focus, to curriculum and instructional goals through reinforcing academic content in a very engaging way. And then finally, I want to uplift the need for funding and programs like the Walking Classroom and how they can create a real opportunity for students to move, learn, and thrive in traditional settings in the schools. So the Walking Classroom is a program where students are able to go for a 15 to 20-minute walk during the school day. With our model, we compound the benefits of physical activity and audio, giving students a way to access content in a way that honors their strengths. The Walking Classroom is ideal for grades 3 through 7th, and we have programs across the state that use the program, such as after-school programs and summer programs as well. Next slide, please. So the foundation of the Walking Classroom, here is our walk, listen, and learn model. It's a very simple model that we implement and use in our trainings to combine movement, audio, to create a seamless experience that is really supportive to all types of learners. We have schools that have utilized it in special ed classes, in gifted and talented programs, and use it as an educational tool to support grade level intervention. I'm sure some of you have already heard of the Walking Classroom, but for today's presentation, if you have any additional questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, and I will definitely, get to those questions after I am done. So this is essentially what it looks like. This is the walk kit. So this device actually houses our podcast episodes. And on this device, you have 190 podcasts that cover topics ranging from science, language arts, and social studies. The program is designed to be super easy to implement, and it comes with a battery, a lanyard, and earbuds. I actually have a example right here. Y'all can see it. Can you see it? Yeah, this is how it looks. It's really small, where students could put the lanyard around their neck, and then they go for their 15 to 20-minute walk. All right. So yes, so it's 190 episodes, and with those episodes, it's accompanied by a discussion or a lesson plan. So teachers or educators are able to go for their 15 to 20-minute walk and stay outside and continue their lesson plan for the day, because it doesn't need any Wi-Fi and it's powered by the battery. So on this slide, getting a little bit more into kind of the standards and the content of the episodes, it is aligned by the Common Core standards, and it is organized by topic and title. So it makes it easy for educators to select a lesson that fits within their curriculum for the week or their curriculum for that quarter. And remember, it is 190 episodes, so it typically does last, an entire school year for our educators. The podcasts are broken down by grade level, and they cover key literacy skills like reading, informational text. You can see right here, it kind of scopes it out for each podcast title. So you have your informational text, you have your writing, speaking, and listening, all listed out for each podcast, which are critical, for building strong academic skills, especially for neurodivergent learners that may be in your classroom or within your program. This structure makes it simple for you to pick out the right podcast for the right student and or for the right lesson. So ensuring that when you go for your walk, it's aligned with the goals that you have for your classroom. And a little note, like a little note or kind of data point to uplift here is You might have a student who's on the fourth grade level, but when it comes to decoding and reading, those specific skills, literacy skills, they may be performing at a third grade level. But with audio, we have seen from the data that um, you can listen to audio to two grade levels above your grade level. So for that fourth grader that is reading on a third grade level, they can still listen to a fourth grade level audio because it's being transmitted through audio versus actually decoding and reading visually. Next slide, please. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the science behind why movement supports learning. Next slide, please. So this is, we've all seen the brain, very important organ. So the prefrontal cortex is a part of the brain highlighted in this slide. This is a region especially responsive to movement and multi-sensory input. Many students may have challenges like working memory, flexible thinking, and regulation, and that is all traced back to this part of the brain. For students, and especially students with ADHD or forms of neurodivergent, when we have long stretches of passive learning or sitting still, that can place a heavy demand on their system. And when we integrate movement, we're activating the part of the brain that is responsible for planning, focus, and organization. So essentially, in other words, when we incorporate movement, it's not a distraction for learning, but it's a way that you can prepare students to actually learn and process the information that is going to be taught for the day. So combining this with outdoor learning reinforces the support of the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for also reducing stress and restoring attention. And it helps with things like focus, self-regulation, and problem solving. Next slide, please. So this is an image. On the right, you'll see how students who've gone for a walk for about 20 minutes before a test or before a quiz, you'll see immediately a difference in the activation, especially in the regions associated with focus, processing, and working memory. Those red areas show higher activity after movement. And essentially, the brain is online, right, and ready to learn. That's what we want to see in students throughout the school day. And one of the effective ways that you can easily do that is by going for a 20-minute walk. And so here at the Walking Classroom, we do use the Universal Design for Learning as our standard, which is a framework designed to create flexible learning environments that accommodate the diverse needs of all learners, assuming that barriers to learning are in the design of the environment rather than the student. So just how Christy was saying, the environment does impact the way that students learn. And that's kind of what the framework, the standard is aligning to. So when students move before learning, we're not just helping them burn energy, right? It's a mindset shift. We're not just helping them burn energy, but we're helping them increase their readiness to engage, process information, and then perform on that information that was taught to them. Next slide, please. So this slide, I want to take a moment to uplift the phrase brain-body connection, something that we're probably all familiar with. We know that when the body moves, the brain is supported and nourished to learn effectively for both students and adults. So movement also plays a key role in trauma-informed teaching. So for students who have experienced stress or adversity, movement like walking can regulate emotions, reduce anxiety, and create a sense of safety and calm within that classroom. So continuous access to outdoor spaces and simple routines like going for a walk may seem small, but it gives students, predictability and something positive to look forward to. Um, and I think that's pretty important. Given the climate that we're in today, we want students to have a sense of safetyness when they're coming to our programs or our schools or school districts. Next slide, please. So, sorry. Now that we've covered how movement supports learning, I kind of want to get into a little bit of um, how movement and audio combined supports regulation and learning as well. So we covered how movement, supports the brain, but now we're bringing in that piece of audio and how that supports different students in learning as well. So for students who may have, strong perfectionist tendencies or some insecurities about reading, audio lowers their performance anxiety and increases their independence. So movement regulates the body, and then audio comes in and supports the brain and decreases that demand for working memory and the demand for breaking down, decoding words when reading a text. So when we pair them, we create a multisensory entry point to reduce the pressure, lower cognitive load, and then strengthen the regulation. All those combined, in the background, really increases the confidence in students to take initiative and re-enter the learning atmosphere with more confidence. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about kind of the science behind how the body supports movement and how audio supports movement. But now I want to shift a little bit into kind of the practical piece of the walking classroom. So we have a little video for you all to watch. It's not the entire interview, but I will drop the link. So if you're interested in seeing the entire interview, you are able to do so.
Your perfect domain is out there. Go to Wix and make it yours.
I am always appreciate you. How long have you been using the walking classroom?
So we've been using the walking classrooms at my elementary school, Covert Elementary School in Rockville Center, for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been absolutely amazing for all of the kids involved. You have the academic component there. There are so many podcasts on so many different topics, and they're super supportive to all learners.
Yeah.
You have the engagement component, which is that all kids are just jumping up, putting their headphones in and taking a walk, and they're super engaged throughout the whole process because you feel like you've been invited on a walk that you're listening to. It's also
So that was a snippet of just a snippet of our one of our adopters, Tara O'Shea, who is in New York, not New York City, but New York, and giving her experience of the walking classroom. We will drop that link so that you have access to the whole interview. It's something that we're very proud of for making it to the Kelly Clarkson show. It just shows kind of, the social proof of the program that we're trying to, get into schools and districts. So here we have, just wanted to drop some pictures of students going for their walk. And you can see a happy teacher as well, smiling. I always like to show this picture because it's important that we do uplift our educators as well, right? So you can't pour from an empty cup. I know that we've all heard that. So even when the students are walking, we do want to uplift our educators and make sure that they have access to get the regulation that they need when they're teaching and being around students for the school day. Next slide, please. So as I wrap up my portion, I wanted to share our 5-year vision and how you can partner with us. So over the next 5 years, we aim to impact an additional 50,000 students through the walking classroom, which ultimately means more time outdoors, more minutes spent walking and moving, and then more consistent opportunities for students to strengthen their physical health, but also their cognitive growth as well. Next slide, please. So this is just a visual reminder of exactly what the walking classroom looks like and what a classroom set is, right? So everything is designed to be very accessible and easy to implement so that you're able to use the walk kit and get kids up and walking and listening, learning right away. You get your 30 devices, and then you also get your lanyard, your battery, everything that you need to get started with the walking classroom. And then one thing that I forgot to mention is that you do have access to a free digital program as well. So that is the program that houses all your lesson plans and quizzes so that once you're done doing your walk, you can continue that learning either outdoors or you can go back to your classroom or the space that you've carved out for, if it's an after school program, the classroom that you've carved out for your students. You can go back there and continue the lesson. Next slide, please. So this is a question that we get a lot. It's so we've talked about the walking classroom, but how do I get it to my community, right? So a few different ways to get it into your community. The first way is to purchase it directly. You can purchase a class set of 30. The second option is to apply for a donated set, and I will be dropping a link to that website where you can apply for a donated set if you have limited budget. And then the third one is to explore local and federal funding. There are many grants or other funding options that align with the walking classroom, and we have supported local communities getting grants to get the walking classroom into their communities and classrooms. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show this page just to for awareness that we do align with these funding pathways. So Title I, II, and III funding, and then 21st Century is specifically for after school or summer learning, and then of course your local grants that support just your communities and schools and projects of that nature. Next slide, please. And we are district and school approved. So the curriculum that is within the walking classroom is approved by the school district and the schools, so that when you are going for your walk, it's not taking away instructional time that certain teachers need to meet throughout the school week. So it is approved by the district and schools to accompany in the classroom as instructional time. So that is all for me. Thank you for your time today. And we would love to partner with you all in South Carolina to, reach our 5-year vision to get more students walking and learning outdoors. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to answering any questions in the chat for me.
Thank you, Ashley. Really appreciate you taking the time to share the walking classroom with us. I've been fortunate enough to work with a couple of districts in South Carolina who were able to implement the walking classroom, and all they can do is talk about how easy it was for their teachers. I feel like having you present after Christy was almost perfect because, Christy really set us up about, the benefits of outdoor learning and how to get buy-in from your administrators and your students to do the outdoor learning. And I really see the walking classroom being that very easy to use package for teachers who or might be hesitant about how they, tailor their lesson plan for outdoor learning. That could be them getting their toes in the water, right? So I appreciate you sharing that, and I really appreciate you talking about that brain-body connection. Again, you and Christy had a lot of similar messaging in your presentations about the importance of outdoor learning and the cognitive and emotional benefits. Ashley, could you put, if you're comfortable with it, your email in the chat in case we do have folks who want to follow up with you on more information on how they could possibly get that resource in their school?
Absolutely. I will drop my email and my LinkedIn if you want to connect on LinkedIn as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Ashley. And if you have any questions for Ashley, put them in the chat. If we happen to run out of time today, our panelists will still respond to your questions offline. Those will go out in the follow-up email after today. So now I would like to introduce y'all to John. John, please tell me, how do I say your last name?
It's Shea, like shea
Shay.
butter.
All right, that's very helpful. So, John Shea is the park supervisor over at Rock Hill Miracle Park. He has worked with the City of Rock Hill Parks Recreation and Tourism since 2014. Since then, he has held a number of different roles, including youth programming, recreation soccer programming, Boyd Hill Recreation Center supervisor, senior adult program director, and park supervisor. You've been very busy, John. A quote directly from John. Growing up, I never really knew what I wanted to do as a profession. I just wanted to help people. I'm lucky every day I get to do just that. And so, with that, John, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like Erica said, my name is John Shea. I work with the City of Rock Hills Park Recreation and Tourism Department. More specifically, I am the park supervisor over at Miracle Park. And Miracle Park is a pretty unique park to our department and in general. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Miracle Park, it's a state-of-the-art park that we've developed for people of all abilities to come and play, to come and work, and to come and gather. And we've done a lot of big steps in order to accommodate that. So we are the first park in the world actually to be universally designed certified, which I know Ashley talked about it a little bit, but universal design is removing those physical barriers, those social barriers, are making it more accessible for elderly, people with disabilities, or people just recovering from injuries and things like that. And then we're also Culture City certified, which if you aren't familiar with that either, Culture City is an organization that provides sensory bags to parks, to arenas, to festivals, things like that, where people can come and they can check out a sensory bag that has noise canceling headphones, weighted blankets, fidget spinners, things like that. So we really put a lot of effort into making it accountable for everybody to be able to participate in the park. So we'll move on to the next slide. And like I said, so this was all kind of started when just a citizen of Rock Hill traveled up to Spartanburg, South Carolina, to visit their nephew who was playing in a Miracle League baseball game there in Spartanburg. And for those in the chat, I'm curious to see if anybody is familiar with Miracle League. And if so, where in what community are you associated with that has a Miracle League? But as you can tell, the motto for Miracle League is everybody deserves a chance to play baseball. Miracle League is an organization that's based out of Conyers, Georgia, which is just south of us. And basically, it's a baseball league that's for people with intellectual and physical disabilities. And so he went to Spartanburg that day, watched his nephew play. He came back to our city council and to our Parks and Recreation department and said, "Hey, we need one of these in Rock Hill. How can we go about doing that?" And if you'll move on to the next slide. Oh, I do see some in the chat. Union County, yeah, definitely. So this is what kind of makes it really unique. So all of our parks are basically built through us, funded through the Parks Department. This one's a little bit different. So it's based out of a public-private partnership Winthrop University, which is our local university here in Rock Hill, they own this plot of land. It's about 16 acres of land. It used to be where their old softball facility used to be. They donated the land to the Parks Department for this park. Max Abilities of York County, which was previously the York County Board of Disabilities, the Disabilities Foundation. What they were in charge of was fundraising for the park, and then they also worked with contractors, developers to actually build the park. And once the facility was built, it basically gets passed on to us, the Parks and Recreation departments, where we maintain the park as far as, cutting grass, landscaping, everything along that, and then also programming wise, which is more of what I'm involved with. But this is a screenshot of it in 2020 when we first broke ground. If you go on to the next slide, I can show you a little bit more in depth about what the park has to offer. So as you can see, it has been pretty much developed, and I have more pictures on later slides that I'll kind of dive into a little bit deeper. But as you can tell, kind of on the left-hand side of the map there's an outline of red. That was for phase 1. We opened phase 1 in September of 2021. And that included one of our Miracle League baseball fields. We repurposed the old Winthrop softball field. We now do our youth T-ball league out of there. We have an all-inclusive playground that we have on the top part right there. And then we have the office concession restroom area as well. The second phase, which we're still currently working on, hopefully within the next month or so, we'll be able to open up that second phase. But we'll have added an additional Miracle League baseball field, a multi-purpose field that will kind of open us up for more kind of sports activities, different kind of sports. We'll have an education building right underneath that. The one in the upper right-hand corner is the shopping and retail area. And then we'll also have a fishing pond as well. So if you'll move on to the next slide. We have pictures of phase 1. So as you can tell, the playground's fully handicap accessible. There's a older playground that you can play on. The one in the left-hand corner is kind of more of the tot lot playground. And then we also have exercise equipment, swings. We have interactive play equipment as well, as you can see with that orange arch. So it's a really cool experience there for the playground. And the picture on the right-hand side was opening day in 2021 when we had it. I think we had around 65 athletes participate in our first season of Miracle League baseball. This past season, we just stopped registration for spring season a couple of weeks ago, and we have 195 athletes. So tripled in size since then, and we're really excited to get that second field up and going. So as you can kind of tell, so the Miracle League baseball field is a little unique. So think of the surface as kind of the playground material, where everything it's a rubberized, it's pebble kind of surface. Everything is completely flat. So all the bases are sunken into the ground. The pitcher's mound is sunken into the ground. And this allows for people in wheelchairs, people with visual issues, be able to play baseball as well. It is a smaller field, but it's completely handicap accessible. If you move on to the next slide, I'll show you phase 2 that, like I said, we are nearly done. The one in the upper left-hand corner is our multi-purpose field. We'll be able to incorporate other sports, football, soccer, things like that. We also have our education building, which is on the upper right-hand side. Everything that we've done since we've opened has been outdoors, which has been nice, but has also come with challenges when you have 95-degree days in the summer and really cold winters. And it's difficult to do an art class sometimes when it's very windy out, but having the education building gives us an opportunity to kind of grow some of our other programming besides sports. It's about a 1,500 square foot building, so very similar to a standard classroom size, maybe a little bit bigger. But super excited to see what we can add to the park with the ability of doing that. What's the most unique part, I feel like, is the bottom left-hand side. So think of that as a shopping retail space. It's going to be completely run through that Max Abilities of York County. They will essentially be the landlords of that building. It is broken up into 4 different units. And the idea is for whatever business decides to come in and participate and run their business in there, part of the leasing agreement is that they will hire at least somebody, but we're hoping multiple people with disabilities in order for them to get, work experience, things like that. We already have a cafe that's going in there. We know for sure that's going to be kind of the very left-hand side where it's kind of jutting out a little bit. That'll be a cafe that will serve lunch and dinner. We'll also have a local market right next door to that will have, local art, crafts, candles, things like that. We'll also have a therapy studio there as well. And then the 4th one's still kind of up in the air a little bit. So they haven't exactly nailed down that last one, but it's a very unique thing. You don't see that very often. There is one up in Belmont, North Carolina, that we kind of base this off of. But we're really excited when that opens up. And then the last one we also have is our therapeutic fishing pond. I know a lot of my stuff is kind of recreation heavy, not as much educational heavy, but I'm hoping with the pond we'll be able to do some outdoor education programming as far as plant life, wildlife, things like that. It'll be fully stocked. We'll also have a handicap accessible dock there as well that will be able to fit at least 2 people with wheelchairs on there at a time, as well as some other people. But super excited about phase 2 of the park opening up. Like I said, it should be done maybe about this time next month. So if you move on to the next slide, please. Just a kind of breakdown of some of our programs. Like I said, we're a lot recreation heavy, but we are looking to add a little bit more education aspects to it as well. So of course, Miracle League Baseball is our big program that we have going on. Flag football we've done for a couple seasons now. We partner with the Carolina Panthers, and we do a big program with them every fall. Soccer as well. We will be introducing in the fall, partnering with Charlotte Independence. Disc golf, we are going to have a couple baskets here that will partner with Innova Disc Golf, who is located right out of Rock Hill, South Carolina. We've done our dance and cheer program for multiple years. Bocce will be on that multi-purpose field as well. We'll be able to move our art classes inside for the education building, and then we'll be able to bring our walking club back. A lot of people are interested in the walking club. We've just had to move it to different parks pretty much the past year or so just because of all the construction going on. But by the time everything's done, we'll have a good walking trail around the park. Esports has been something a lot of people have been asking about. We'll probably incorporate that into our education building as well. Gymnastics we've done for multiple years since we've opened. We'll also be getting a small greenhouse, so we'll be able to do some gardening and plant education. Of course, fishing with the dock coming. Theater we'll kind of incorporate with our dance and cheer. Outdoor education, like I touched on with the pond. We'll be able to do some plant life and animal life over there. Game programs have been big for us. A lot of our participants really like the trivia, bingo, card games, board games, things like that. We'll introduce those back into the education building. And then something that I've really enjoyed is our holiday programming. So we've done Trick or Treat the past 2 years at the park. I feel like trick or treating has kind of switched up a little bit, and Trunk or Treat has been the new thing. And we've had really good turnout the past couple of years when we've done that. We've done our Sensory Santa program for the past 3 years as well, which is like if you would go to the mall and you would see Santa there and you have kids take pictures with Santa, things like that. It's very similar, but it is a pre-registration thing. So you'll sign up for a specific time slot. And we just give the opportunity to have more time with Santa for those who need it. So instead of trying to rush and take a picture, sorry. I don't know why it cut me off, but so instead of rushing to take a picture within 30 seconds to a minute, we'll give them a little bit of an extended time to interact with Santa just in case they need it. And then something new that we are doing next month, the end of next month, is our adaptive Easter egg hunt. We already do an Easter egg hunt for the city every year at one of our other parks. We have been approached to do an adaptive Easter egg hunt. So we will be doing that this year too. Fun aspect is that we are going to get beeper eggs for people who have visual difficulties. So they'll be able to walk around and still pick up eggs as well. But like I said, we are a little recreation heavy, but we are trying to incorporate more educational stuff as well as we move forward and the park opens up. So if you could move to the next slide, please. We do also have some really good partnerships with some local organizations, specifically the York County Library. This I wanted to touch on just because I wanted to bring up something educational that we do in the park. But the York County Library brings out their bookmobile at least twice a month, and it's a really good outreach program that our local library does. Anybody with a library card can go in there, and they have everything from printed books, ebooks. They have CDs, DVDs, magazines, all that kind of stuff. Of course, it's very youth focused with everything that we have at our park, but it's a really good outreach program that they have. And then they also do family story time. So they do that twice a month, most months. During the summer, they do it once a week out there. It's a really cool family outing, really fun family experience. The people who present and put it on also often dress up as some of the characters, as you can tell in the picture. But it's just a great opportunity for people to get out and have some literacy as well. If you'll move on to the next slide, please. And this is something else that we're very proud of is we have a story walk, which if you could tell in the right-hand picture, we have these stands kind of all throughout the park along our walking trail. Each stand is a different page of the book. So as you walk, you can read the story. It promotes early literacy and encourages physical activity. And something that I've really liked is that you can also scan that QR code there, and it provides an audio version of that book. So people who have visual issues can also still continue to walk and listen to the book as well. But that's something that we were super excited about when we first installed that. We've changed it out a couple times, changed the story out a couple times throughout the years. And people always seem to be interested in that. So, and then the last slide I have for you guys is something that just like I'm super excited about having. Every year, the Miracle League Nationals hosts an all-star game. This past year was in St. Louis, Missouri. This year we're going to Frisco, Texas. And then in September 2027, we are actually hosting it here in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So each Miracle League, there's about 350 of them. I'm not sure if I even mentioned that, but there's about 350 Miracle Leagues across the country, Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico. Each of those Miracle Leagues can send up to 2 athletes for each of the all-star games. So we'll have about 300 plus athletes come into Rock Hill and play some games, and really just a really cool experience for them to actually get to travel and play a sport that, they didn't really get a chance to growing up. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't include my email, but I will drop it in the chat for you guys, just in case you guys want to reach out to me at any time. But thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. So.
Thank you, John. I just have to say, I really appreciate the intentional design of Miracle Park because it's really giving everyone that opportunity to not just thrive when it comes to recreation and education and social connection, but I love the innovative part about employment opportunity as well. So kudos to y'all and all that you're doing. I've already had a couple of folks even before today's webinar when they saw the flyer go out for today being like, who's their designer? Because we want to do that in our community. So thank you for already sharing that out.
Yeah, definitely.
So we do have a few more minutes left. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat right now. I haven't seen any come through while y'all were presenting or in the Q&A, but I have seen a lot of love. If we can just give a little bit more love before we wrap up to each of our panelists today, I just want to thank all of them, Christy, Ashley, and John, for not only taking the time to share what you do and what resources you have with us today, but the time it took for you to prepare for today as well. Also, their contact information is in the chat, so you can find it there. Still not seeing any questions, which is totally fine, but just know that these folks are a resource for y'all. So, today was like they each had only 20 minutes. So it was kind of like a teaser trailer, like almost an infomercial, if you will, of the amazing work and expertise and resources they have. So if something you heard really interested you, please reach out to them. These people are very easy to get a hold of. They want to help. So please just, make contact with them. If we'll go to the next slide, please, I'm going to wrap us up with the few minutes that we have left. So our last slide, it should be a flyer for our upcoming webinars for the remaining of our spring series. So this one is for our March 18th webinar, which will be focused on feeding the future using healthy meals to strengthen student health. So we'll have Farah, who's going to join us. If you've been a part of our series for a while now, she's been one of our presenters in the past because she gives a wealth of information as it relates to nutrition. So she's going to be sharing information from the 5210 recipe cookbook. And then we're also going to have a special guest from the South Carolina Department of Agriculture to share about certified SC cafeterias in South Carolina. So please be sure to register for that one. You can register now. And if you think this is something that some of your colleagues may be interested in, whether they're in food service, feel free to share this along with them as well. And then as a reminder, the survey link is in the chat. Thank you, Meg, for sharing that. So you be sure to complete that so that you can receive your certificate of attendance for today. These webinars are available for CEUs, CHES, and MCHES credits, all for free. And then just be on the lookout for follow-up emails in the coming weeks with recordings of today's webinar as well as last month's webinar. And as always, you can find them archived at wholespire.org. And I just want to wrap it all up by thanking my friends behind the scenes again today, Bree for sharing the slides, Meg for taking care of our technology, and then Juanita for monitoring the chat and Q&A. Appreciate all of y'all who attended today. We thank you for taking time out of your morning to spend it with us to hear from our great presenters. And with that, we hope to see you again next month. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Erica.